Hey friends, my name's Derrick Broze and I'm running for mayor of Houston. Today we're going to talk about one of the other mayoral candidates, Mr. Tony Buzbee. Now, I really don't like to spend my time talking about the opponents in this race. I'd rather talk about the issues that I care about and the solutions for transforming Houston, but sometimes you just have to stop and listen to what the other candidates are saying, and this is one of those cases. But before we do that, I want to invite you guys to check out my website, decriminalize.com, so you can find out more about my campaign for mayor and how I plan to amplify the voices of Houstonians and expose corruption in our city. You can also check out the mayor page where you can find out more about the issues that I'm raising, the 9 core issues. You can also find out more about my backstory. And if you want to support us, check out the donate page and you can get involved in our campaign and help keep us alive through November and beyond. But let's get right into it. So Mr. Tony Buzbee is running for mayor of Houston, and he has a radio show every Friday called Talking with Tony. And I was notified by a supporter that somebody had called into his show to ask him a question about me and about 5G. Now, for those who are unaware, 5G is the 5th generation of cellular technology, which I have been raising awareness about in the city of Houston for the last 9 or 10 months, and as a journalist, writing articles, putting out news reports and video reports, interviewing the current mayor, interviewing the chief of Verizon, and interviewing experts in health and in privacy about this topic. So I know it quite well. But let's go ahead and see what this caller had to say to Mr. Buzbee.
Chris wants to talk about infrastructure projects. Chris, you want to talk?
Hey, Mr. Buzbee, thank you so much for taking my call, and thank you for running for mayor against Sylvester Turner.
I don't know who that is.
I'm sorry?
Who is Sylvester Turner?
The current mayor.
I'm joking, man.
Yeah,
I'm
man,
kidding.
come on.
I'm totally kidding.
You're killing me.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right, hey, my question has to do with actually one of your other opponents. His name is Derrick Broze.
Okay.
He's an investigative journalist, also a young man. He's about the same age as I am. We grew up in the same area together. But he's extremely passionate about the dangers of 5G and is insistent on placing a moratorium on 5G until more studies are completed. My question is based on your speech that you gave a couple weeks ago on the State of the City, a week or two ago, whatever it was, you stated some factually incorrect information about 5G according to him, according to Derrick Broze.
According to him, I was kind of surprised that he wasn't, like, if he's the 5G guy, that he didn't actually have his info about 5G. But go ahead.
Well, it seems that y'all might just have a difference of opinion. So my question is, will you perhaps maybe get together with him on his radio show, or could you invite him onto this radio show to have a discussion about the 5G rollout, since it really is such a important issue?
Let's be clear. Let me be clear about that. I appreciate this call, Chris, because this is good. This is a good call. Because let me tell you why I think 5G is so important. Not the 5G that Sprint talks about, or Verizon talks about, or AT&T talks about. That's a 5G that deals with that people say, and I'm actually. You remember, I've represented people that have been impacted by exposure for 20 years. So it's not like I'm a guy that ignores that. I'm a guy that's represented people for years in court who have been impacted by that. So let's be clear who we're talking to right now. But I've sat in my office in Houston with individuals who were proposing 5G, what I call the real 5G. And we've talked about, and I've asked them straight away, like, look, I'm concerned about 5G. I'm concerned about the health effects. I'm concerned about how it potentially could be causing cancer. It could potentially be killing animals, birds, bats, whatnot. And that's not the 5G I'm promoting. I'm promoting a 5G that's being currently tested in Vietnam, Hong Kong, by U.S. Entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, who show me the data that this is something completely different. So I hear where you're coming from, and I appreciate Mr. Broze or whatever his name is, but I think he's a little bit off base. I thank you for your call. We're going to be back very shortly.
And Chris, have him call 281.
All right, so I think you guys get the point there, what I was trying to make and get at there. So let me just go through this. First, before I get into telling you why Tony Buzbee is fundamentally wrong when he says that he supports what he calls real 5G, some safe 5G, let me just note a few things that I heard in this conversation, this short conversation. First off, thanks to Chris for calling. But he laughed. I heard him laugh whenever it was mentioned that I'm a journalist. I don't know what that's about. At one point, he says, "Oh, according to him," and he calls me the 5G guy. But he says I didn't have my info. I'm not sure what Tony's talking about, but Tony, I've been investigating this for 10 months plus. I have plenty of information, and that's why I've been going to city council talking about this for the last 10 months. I don't know where you are. It seems like you're kind of late to the game, but I've got plenty of information. And then he says whatever his name is. And I've noticed this is a thing with Tony Buzbee. When I went to introduce myself to him at the Juneteenth parade, I mentioned Bill King, and he says, I don't even know who that is. And I just kind of laughed it off. Then at the beginning of this call, he tells Chris he doesn't know who the Mayor Turner is. And then he says whatever his name is. I think this is just one of his tactics to act like he's above the other candidates and he doesn't even know their name. And then he says that he thinks I'm way off base. Now, it's interesting that Tony has these concerns now, and he says he's concerned about the animals, he's concerned about health concerns and these sort of things. For those who followed our campaign, go to our website or to our Facebook page and look under our videos, and you can see a video I did a couple of weeks ago showing where Tony Buzbee and the mayor both support 5G. But about a month ago, Tony was on a local news program, and he said that the people who think 5G is dangerous are wrong. So he didn't have any concerns. And then about 2 weeks ago, he spoke and I spoke at the Protect Tanglewood Forum, where that neighborhood has been fighting against 5G. And it seemed like all of a sudden Mr. Buzbee realized 5G was an issue. And so he started talking about it and saying that, well, no, I'm not for the Verizon 5G or the Sprint 5G and the things you guys are concerned with. I'm supporting something that's coming out of Singapore and Hong Kong and Vietnam that's a safe 5G, totally different. And I decided to look further into this, and all the research I found of all the companies and all the projects that is developing in Vietnam and Singapore and Hong Kong and other places in Southeast Asia, there is no 5G that is safe. And this is a big part of the issue, I think, is that Mr. Buzbee fundamentally misunderstands what 5G is. Now, I'll show you this quick little article here. You can find more information like this online. The basics about 5G. Now, 5G is the name, the fifth generation, given to the specific part of the electromagnetic spectrum that is being opened up for the fifth generation of cellular technologies, for the Internet of Things and all these new developing smart tech. So no matter what type of satellite you may use or what type of infrastructure, 5G is 5G. 5G is a very specific part of the spectrum. It says radio wave frequencies range from 3 kilohertz up to 300 gigahertz. And you have different parts of the spectrum. 5G, though, will operate on the range of 300 megahertz to 3 gigahertz. And it's used for everything from TV, GPS, Wi-Fi, cordless phones, and Bluetooth. So that's 300 megahertz to 3 gigahertz. So regardless of what is going on with the infrastructure, or what companies he's using, or what country he's visiting, 5G is 5G. So it's the problem, the health concerns that come along with 5G have to do with the spectrum. It's not the company that's behind it, although there is corruption going on. So I think that because Mr. Buzbee has been late to the game, and a month ago he said that 5G was safe, and then 2 weeks ago he says he's concerned, and now on the radio he says that he has concerns but he supports safe 5G, I think this is the reason for his ignorance. And another thing I want to note is that Mr. Buzbee acted like he doesn't know who I am, but despite me introducing myself to him, not only have I talked to him face to face, but just earlier this week, just a few days ago, here at the last week of June, I was invited to a meeting with a couple of members of the Protect Tanglewood Forum and a representative of Mr. Buzbee's campaign, a Mr. Bert Keller, that you can see right here. I met with him on a Tuesday afternoon, and he specifically said he came here because Tony realized he was wrong and wants to get educated about 5G. And when Tony Buzbee wanted to get educated about 5G, who did his volunteer call? Me, Derrick Broze, because I have been investigating this for quite some time. So on one hand, privately, Mr. Buzbee sends one of his employees or one of his volunteers to come meet me, to talk to me, to try to get the lowdown on why he should be concerned about 5G, and claims that Tony realizes he was wrong. And then on the other hand, Mr. Buzbee is publicly on his radio show claiming he doesn't know who I am and that I didn't have my information and that there is a safe 5G. So I think it's quite clear that, in my view, Tony Buzbee shouldn't be trusted. He's flip-flopping on the issue. Some of you can say, well, look, he's realizing his wrong, and now he's coming late to the issue, but better late than never, right? I don't trust him. You can trust him if you want, and I'll leave that to your personal judgment, because at the end of the day, it's up to what you want. But I'll say this, based on my limited involvement with him in the last few weeks, in the last month, getting to introduce myself to him and hearing him on the radio, and then seeing him send somebody to try to get information that I spent the last year investigating to use for his campaign, I think he's playing political maneuvers. And despite his appearance or his claim to be an outsider, a non-politician, he's just as connected to powerful establishment money as some of the other people in the race. So that's where I'm going to end it. That's why I don't trust Tony Buzbee. I encourage you all to look more into 5G, to find out what's going on with the 5G health concerns. I have plenty of videos you can find. You can look up our campaign videos. And if you want to learn more about my campaign or potentially support us through a donation, please visit decriminalize.com to learn more. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free, Houston. Peace.